This video is sponsored by Under Lucky Stars. The death of Li Keqiang and today's funeral marked the end of an inter-faction struggle between Xi Jinping and the Communist Youth League faction. The former premier died on October 27th. It has unfortunately once again confirmed to us the era of one-man rule will continue. Yet there's been multiple versions of how Li Keqiang died, and I think it warrants a deeper look as it reveals to us the opaque black box politics of the CCP, and it sheds lights on the downfall of the CCP officials. Welcome to China Insider, I'm David Zhang. Now today, Li Keqiang's funeral was held at Baboshan, where communist leaders go before cremation. Over the past week, Chinese people have used the death of Li Keqiang as a way to vent frustration with Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party. Xi Jinping, along with the other 6 Politburo Standing Committee members, attended the funeral. They bowed and each gave Li Keqiang's widow a handshake. Xi and his wife both shook hands with the widow, but it didn't seem to me like there was anything out of the ordinary from this video here. However, we know that behind the scenes, everyone knows how dangerous it is in the Chinese politics right now. The vibe that I'm getting here is like the entire country is in a pressure cooker, and it's waiting to blow up. The death of Li Keqiang is not one about his achievement, though, or, his attempt to reform China for the better. It actually should be viewed through the lens of factional power struggles, and the end result is, of course, the entire Youth League faction, consisting of former leaders like Hu Jintao and Li Keqiang. They've fallen and sidelined by Xi Jinping completely. And above all that, a general sense of despair, knowing that the end for any CCP officials is a death marked by secrecy and fear. Li Keqiang's death really marked the end of the Youth League, but it also spells the final stage of the Chinese Communist Party, which is opaqueness, inhumane, and ruthless, much like the final chapters in many dictatorial and totalitarian regimes. Now, there are 2 outcomes following the funeral. One is that this whole thing is finished, period. That is, the Xi regime will formally conclude to the public, as well as trying to crush the public opinion as well as the political side of things following this funeral. No more discussions. And that means that leaves the biggest question mark on Xi Jinping's head. Why not investigate his death? No one will think that Li died naturally if Xi Jinping wants to finish this quickly. And people move on to the next tragedy, but they will always remember something fishy was going on. On the flip side, the second outcome is that month later, we find a group of CCP officials have their heads rolled, for different reasons, of course. But that means Xi Jinping launched a secret investigation to clear his name from the murder of Li Keqiang. To this day, we still have no clear indication as to how he died. Some say that it was assassination. Others say he simply died naturally. Or even perhaps from things like COVID complications or unseen health conditions. Officially, it is maintained that Li died from a heart attack while swimming. But I want to explore all the different scenarios that's been circulating online as well as rumors surrounding his death. Before we get there, here is a sponsor segment. Now, I always struggle when I have to buy a gift for someone for their birthday. Do I buy them another t-shirt or generic mug that says something super generic? Or maybe I'll get them a fancy convection oven once in a while. But here's the problem with all these gifts. They're all too basic and boring. If you want to surprise someone with a special gift and get their genuine reaction, then you have to check out Under Lucky Stars. They make unique star maps for a special time and date. It could be how the star systems looked on the day you proposed to your fiancé, or maybe the date that your friend was born. They're verified by a NASA astronomer for accuracy, and they come in all types of designs. Just use the simple website to design and customize your star map. You have all sorts of different colors and choices for design, as well as font, and you can choose to add your special message in the title as well as footnote. Watch your friends and family's faces when they unwrap this special gift. It's a sweet and elegant way to commemorate anniversaries, weddings, and birthdays. They also have a 4.7-star review on Trustpilot, and they ship globally as well. So check out the link in the description and order your special gift to someone today. All right, let's talk about the different scenarios, and then I'll give you my conclusion. Scenario 1 is that there's an argument about whether or not Xi Jinping ordered his death. As we know that Xi Jinping, of course, is one-man rule, and the Stalinization of China is real. He can effectively eliminate political oppositions as he wishes. But is Li Keqiang really still a threat? Li Keqiang, we know that he retired after 2022. He no longer holds official power. So this scenario centers around the head of the Central Security Bureau, which is the CCP version of the Secret Service. And its head, Wang Xiaohong, is the one who commanded the task of assassination. However, it's unfit to the characteristics of this bureau. which of course is to watch all the CCP officials, spy on them, and they are also tasked with the security details of CCP officials. Whereas the assassination side of things land with the Ministry of State Security, or otherwise. Now, of course, the order comes from Cai Qi, who is the head of the central office, and that oversees the entire Central Security Bureau. And Cai Qi is Xi Jinping's closest confidant right now. He's the second most powerful man in China. He handles all of Xi Jinping's daily affairs, political activity, propaganda, personal security, and ideology. And here is him at the funeral today, whispering something into the ears of the widow. I don't want to speculate, but it might sound something like, "I did the dirty work." It's a joke. But the only scenario, as discussed in the last episode on this topic, is if the factions come together and they're secretly plotting something to overthrow Xi Jinping, and they chose Li Keqiang as the figure to replace Xi Jinping. So sort of a coup attempt. In this line of thinking, Xi Jinping's move to ensure that no one could rise against him seems to make sense by taking out Li Keqiang. Now, of course, we know that Xi Jinping's paranoia over his personal safety extended into the military and other aspects of society with the recent purge of the rocket force, and at the same time, he is also afraid of a united alliance against him within the party. And so there's always this two forced against each other. Now, since Li Keqiang died on October 27th, Chinese official websites and major outlets haven't turned their web pages to grayscale, and only apparently Starbucks China did. So it's very strange in the reactions to his death. There's an overall downplay of Li Keqiang's death, and this included not even allowing his name to be searched anymore on official bookstore websites, not allowing more people to place flower bouquets in his hometown, and at the funeral site, many plainclothes cops are trying to keep people from whether that's filming or causing so-called disturbances. It's a disrespect from the view of a passing person, and he's the former number 2, right? The premier of China. But, of course, as we saw, at least Xi Jinping showed up to his funeral. That alone could potentially clear some suspicion, but it doesn't mean that she had nothing to do with the assassination in this respect. It's just like how everyone knows that Putin probably killed Prigozhin, but still acts like he's shocked when he found out that Prigozhin died. So there's a secrecy aspect surrounding this theory, right? A lack of funeral preparation, general censorship against Li Keqiang, and here's a woman taken by the police while covering her mouth, among many small details that happened just within this past week, as well as today. It makes it very interesting as to what the motivation is to downplay Li Keqiang's death, and why do it so much in public, even in death. Also, while Li Keqiang resides in Beijing, he was dying in Shanghai at the time of his death. And so rumors were saying that since Li last appeared in China in public, which was back in August at the Dunhuang historic site, he had lost contact with his family. So the rumor alleges that since then, Li had been under house arrest in Shanghai at the hotel where he eventually suffered his demise. All right, here comes scenario number 2. Another theory is that Li died not from a heart attack, but from poison via ricin, which is a powerful toxin found often in a powder form or crushed up castor beans. It's a natural thing from castor beans. Now, ricin poison is often used by special agents as a form of assassination. We've seen this multiple times. Exposure can include organ failures, and there's no known antidote or anything like vaccines. So the extension of this theory is that some other faction, perhaps the Jiang Zemin faction, did the dirty work to frame Xi Jinping. Does this theory have any validity? It actually does. So here's a little bit of history background. Jiang Zemin, his faction, of course, he was the general secretary from the 90s till the early 2000s. His faction was very powerful. And before 2012's new leadership came in, which is Xi Jinping, there was a discussion behind the scenes. So Jiang's faction and Youth League, which is Hu Jintao's faction, they were locked in a power struggle within the party as to discuss who is the next successor. And of course, they were trying to find somebody who would help them build more power within the system. As I discussed previously in the last video, Xi Jinping's ascension to power is the direct result of that power struggle. And so to this day, the Youth League and Jiang faction, they've had ongoing differences. Their collective enemy, however, is now Xi Jinping. And that's because Xi Jinping took away their piece of the pie that they were enjoying while they were in power. So before Xi Jinping, any communist faction could essentially profit and graft from a position of power. They made so much money and they had so many different sorts of areas that they can make money from. So there was a saying, it was called keep quiet and make big fortunes. And that idea was that they had total control over the finances and the economy of China. You had banks, real estate, entertainment, technology, the entire Chinese internet space. All of it belonged to these different factions. But when Xi Jinping came in, he was looking at these powerful red families holding so much influence, enough financial prowess to rival the central government. That itself was a threat to his position. So he wants to rule as a concentration of power into the party. And so, again, he waged an anti-corruption campaign. Think of it like this, right? Before Xi Jinping, it was a question of how many pieces of the pie can we get? And after Xi Jinping, it was more like, do we even have a pie to eat? If the Zhang faction ordered the assassination, it would serve two things. One is, for example, you can frame Xi Jinping as the murderer, but also two, you remove a youth league faction figure in Li Keqiang. One stone, two birds. But this is very risky. As I said, one of the outcomes is heads will roll. And that's because if Xi Jinping finds out whoever framed him for Li's death, that's a very bad ending. And let's talk about the last scenario, which is scenario number 3. Li Keqiang very well could have died naturally from a heart attack. However, many, including myself, questioned the medical procedure in which he, from the time he was taken to the hospital until he was pronounced dead, a short time. And that's not how normal procedures go for top CCP officials. There's no way that they would die so easily. They have monthly checkups and pre-existing conditions are very much known to their medical team. While natural sudden death is still plausible, the higher chance of this being natural is very low. Here's why. Simply because from the time of his death to the announcement of his death normally could take up to a week, and the entire thing should be secretly done in terms of trying to revive him. But everything was so public and so sudden and felt so rushed, as if they were trying to get it over with, like he just die off. Now, of course, Li was also sent to an abnormal hospital before his death. Instead of the top hospital in Shanghai for cardiac problems, he was just sent to a regular hospital, or a more regular hospital catering to the common folks, as if he wasn't the status of top, the former premier. And there was a rule for top officials in China, which is that while they were suffering any health problems, the designated hospital's director must be on standby at all times. They're not allowed to take a break so that they can direct the hospital's operation to find the right people to save the person. There's just no way that with today's medical technology, they could not save Li Keqiang, or at least try to keep him alive for an extended period of time. But it seems like there was a clear medical failure, procedural failure, and even security failure on the part of his death. So here's my conclusion for all of this. I think that Li Keqiang did suffer from a natural heart problem. He was then taken to the hospital. But Xi Jinping, after hearing that he was on the verge of dying, basically said to stop the medical procedure to rescue him. In other words, while Xi Jinping didn't order the assassination, in my view, he did let Li Keqiang die. And that explains the quick rush to announce his death from wrapping up the saving procedure to then eventually saying that, okay, he just suddenly died, right? It caught everybody by surprise. And I do believe that there's a certain level of hatred from Xi Jinping for Li Keqiang. And it, of course, has the paranoia factor, right? Li's faction is simply plotting something against Xi Jinping, and this was an opportunity to stop that. Despite not killing him, but rather letting him die is also another way of, I guess you could say, paying back or even just a pure hatred move. But no matter what, this is not a death because Li Keqiang is fighting for freedom. It sounds mean and terrible to say, right? But that's the reality of the CCP. Li Keqiang himself is a classic eunuch-like figure. It's an official cultivated by the CCP's party culture. It's a death in the CCP that doesn't mark accomplishment, but rather it marks the end of a power struggle. True reformers, this idea of people wanting change in China, they've all died after the Tiananmen Square massacre. Those now that take on the mantle of the so-called reformers, they're all simply for show. In essence, they're all high-level Communist Party defenders. They don't want the party itself to decay or die. They simply want their factions to be on the winning side. After the June 4th incident in 1989, Li Keqiang gained a lot of favor with Hu Jintao and Deng Xiaoping simply because of his firm support for the brutal suppression of the students. When he was secretary of the Provincial Party Committee in Liaoning, he was also ruthless in implementing Jiang Zemin's policy of persecuting Falun Gong practitioners. Li Keqiang himself also existed within this tyrannical system as a player of the CCP. He is not somebody outside of it, right? He has not done anything good for the change of the Chinese people worth remembering. In essence, he's only remembered by his quotes. Now, of course, people see him as a way to express their dissatisfaction with Xi Jinping, and that's just simply an outlet to vent the frustration. But there is no chance at all for a nationwide sort of resistance or a wave of protest as people would remember back in 1989. This is all because that these people, they're all firm in their spirit of the party. Li Keqiang would do the same thing if he was in the paramount power position as Xi Jinping would to serve the political needs of the party. Right? Of course, we know that he didn't stop the Uyghur persecution or the Falun Gong persecution. He didn't stop anything to do with human rights. He simply continued to aid in the state machine that is the CCP. Sure, Li Keqiang, right? Like I said, he had quotes like 600 million Chinese people earning a monthly income of 1,000 yuan. It expressed his helplessness, but he simply existed in a system where it was set up by his predecessors, but yet he could not break it. So what did he do? He simply lived alongside it. He represents a vast number of the followers within the CCP, within the system, right? These elites of the society. He simply is aware of the evil tyranny of the CCP, but for the sake of his own power, fame, and fortune, he served them as one of the gears in this machine, or this never rusty screws, as the CCP calls them. Many of them simply didn't want to get themselves into trouble, and they just wanted to get by. And so when the Chinese Communist Party committed evil deeds, they blindly followed or remained silent. So they're sort of like the lubricant in a meat grinder, so to speak. But when they lose their value, as they lose the ability to lubricate, well, they just blend in with the rest of the crowd, and that's it. So it sounds cruel for me to say, but that's the reality. I also said that the Youth League faction, right, one of those factions, simply they're anti-Xi Jinping. They're not anti-Communist Party. And they're also responsible for part of the rampant corruption in China as well. So this is not just a clear-cut black and white issue. It's a simple case of power struggle gone bad, and now it brings out so many different elements and I guess you would call it the destructive factors of the CCP before our eyes. Now, Li's death is going to go down, and it's going to become a part of the Chinese Communist Party's history as towards creating that final stage of the destruction aspect. And today it's Li Keqiang, tomorrow it could be Xi Jinping, somebody else. But no matter what, right, it's simply a display of their side of that little political game that they're playing. They're winning temporarily, whereas the other side is losing. And that's it. That's simply the fact that we live and watch a system in which it's collapsing on itself. Somebody is winning temporarily, and that's Xi Jinping right now. All right, that's it for today's episode on China Insider, talking about Li Keqiang's death and the multiple scenarios, as well as my little analysis on the situation. If you enjoy the content, leave a like, comment below your thoughts on this topic, and subscribe to our channel. As always, thank you so much for watching. Check out Under Lucky Stars, and I'll see you next time.